Welcome to a slow, beginner-friendly lesson on how we will run code later, made for absolute beginners. This lesson sets expectations. You will hear the names of tools we use later: a terminal, VS Code, and UV. We do not install them step by step here. We only remove mystery. First, a promise that matters more than any tool. You do not need to install anything to finish this lesson. You do not need to run anything. We are only going to name the tools you will meet later, so that when they finally appear, they feel like old friends rather than strangers. If you have ever felt overwhelmed by setup steps, this lesson is deliberately the opposite of that. Just listen and let the names settle. Nothing to install. Here are the 4 tools we will meet, only by name for now. A terminal, the place where you type commands. The Python interpreter, the runner that reads your file and does what it says. A friendly tool called UV, which helps install and manage Python itself. And an editor, a program for writing code comfortably, the most common one being VS Code. 4 names. That is all this lesson asks you to hold for now. 4 names. Picture the path ahead. You now know the names of the tools that wait along it: the terminal, the interpreter, UV, and VS Code. You do not need to carry any of them yet. Knowing they exist, and roughly what each is for, is enough to keep walking forward without fear of the unknown. The path ahead. The terminal is the first tool, and it is simpler than it looks. It is a plain window where you type a command on one line, press enter, and the computer answers on the next line. No icons, no menus, no clicking. Just typed words and plain replies. Beginners sometimes fear the terminal because it looks empty, but that emptiness is honest. It is simply the most direct way to tell the computer exactly what you want. Just a typing box. The interpreter is the heart of it all. You write your instructions in a file, and the interpreter is the program that reads that file and actually does what the lines say, one by one, top to bottom. Without the interpreter, your file is just text sitting still. With it, the text comes alive and turns into action. When people say Python runs your code, what they really mean is the Python interpreter reads and performs your file. The runner, here is the most common way to run a file. In the terminal you type the word Python, a space, and the name of your file, then press enter. The interpreter opens that file, runs every line in order, and shows you anything the program prints. Read the command aloud and it almost explains itself: Python, run my file greet.py. That one line is the doorway between writing code and seeing it work. One command. You will hear the name UV a great deal in this course, so let us introduce it gently. Spoken aloud, it is UV. It is a small, fast, friendly tool that installs Python for you, keeps track of which version you are using, and keeps each project neat and separate. Setting up Python by hand used to be the hardest part of learning. UV exists to make that pain disappear. You will not use it today, only know that it is coming, and that it is on your side. UV, on your side. The right tools make hard things easy. For a long time, setting up Python was the hardest part of learning it. Modern tools like UV changed that, quietly removing the pain so you can spend your energy on ideas instead of installation screens. The tools are on your side, waiting. Tools that help. Besides running files, there is a second, looser way to use Python. It is called IPython, spoken IPython. It is an interactive shell where you type one line, press enter, and see the result immediately, no file needed. It is perfect for experimenting, for asking what does this value become, or for trying a small idea before you commit it to a file. Think of it as a playground, and the file as the real work. We will use both later. A playground. So when do you use a file and when do you use the playground? A file is for work you want to keep, real programs you save and run again. The playground is for exploring, for quick questions, for testing an idea before you trust it. Both speak the same Python, because both use the same interpreter underneath. Over time you will develop a feel for which one a given moment needs, and you will switch between them without thinking. File or playground. An editor is simply the program you use to write your code files comfortably. The one we will use is called VS Code, and it is free. It does helpful things like coloring your code so the structure is easier to read, and gently warning you when something looks off. You can write Python in any plain text editor, but a good one removes a lot of small friction. We will set VS Code up together in a later lesson, step by step. A comfortable editor. An editor is more than a blank page. A good one colors your code, lines up your spacing, and gently warns you when something looks off. It turns writing code from a struggle into a conversation. VS Code is that kind of editor, and you will get to know it slowly, in its own good time. More than a blank page. Let us walk through what actually happens when you run a file, slowly. You type the command in the terminal. The interpreter opens the file and reads the first line, performs it, moves to the next, performs it, and keeps going top to bottom until the file ends. Whenever a line asks to print something, that text appears in the terminal. When the last line is done, the interpreter stops and hands control back to you. That is the whole show. Top to bottom. Once the tools are in place, working with code has a tight, friendly rhythm. You write a line, save the file, run it, read what comes out, and learn something. Then you repeat. This loop is where real understanding grows, one small turn at a time. Each run teaches you a little more than the last, because the interpreter always answers honestly. That honest feedback is the best teacher you will ever have, and it is always waiting. The friendly loop. You may wonder why we defer the setup instead of doing it now. The answer is that installing tools is a skill of its own, and mixing it with learning to think in code frustrates many beginners. They spend their first day fighting installation errors instead of understanding anything. So we separate the two cleanly. First you learn the ideas, with nothing to install. Later, when the ideas are steady, we set up the tools in their own lesson. Ideas first. If some of these names feel unfamiliar, that is completely fine and exactly expected. You are not supposed to memorize them from one hearing. The point of today is simply that the names exist, so the second time you hear them they ring a bell, and the third time they feel normal. There is no rush and no test. Understanding always comes first in this course, and clicking through setup comes later, in its own calm moment. No rush. Nothing you learn today is wasted. Every name you now recognize, every tool you can picture, is part of the foundation under everything that comes next. The foundation does not need to be deep yet. It only needs to be steady, and today it grew a little steadier, one name at a time. Steady ground. To keep this lesson honest, here is what we are not doing. We are not opening a terminal. We are not installing Python or UV. We are not running any file. This lesson is a guided tour, a walk past the tools so you recognize them later. If you finish knowing the names terminal, interpreter, UV, and versus code, and roughly what each one is for, then the tour did its job and you are ready for the next idea. A tour, not setup. 2 myths worth clearing now. Myth 1, the terminal is only for experts. False. It is just a typing box, and you will be comfortable in it within a few lessons. Myth 2, you have to figure out all the setup alone. Also false. We will do every setup step together, slowly, when the time comes. Every expert you admire once stood exactly where you stand now, staring at an empty window, wondering where to begin. Myths cleared. A worry many beginners carry silently: what if I break my computer? With the approach we use, you will not. Running Python files does not damage anything, and the tools we will introduce keep each project safely separated. Another worry is that setup eats days. With UV, the part that used to take hours now takes minutes. So set both worries down. The path ahead is gentler than the rumors suggest, and we walk it together. Set worries down. Let us hold the whole lesson together. Later in the course we will run our files in a terminal, using a command like python greet.py. The interpreter reads each file and performs the lines in order. A friendly tool called UV installs and manages Python for us, and an editor called Versus Code is where we write the code. 4 tools, 1 clear picture. Nothing to install today, only names to recognize tomorrow. 4 tools, 1 picture. Where does this lead? The next lessons move into the real building blocks of programming: variables, the labeled boxes that hold values, then types, the kinds of values that exist, and then functions, the named blocks of work you can call again. The actual setup lesson waits patiently for its turn. For now you have a map of the tools ahead, and that map is enough to keep walking forward with confidence. Real coding soon. Every running program you have ever admired began as a plain file, opened by an interpreter, one line at a time. The same path is open to you now. You know the tools, you know the loop, and you know the setup will come when it is ready. From here, it is only practice and patience. From file to result. The takeaway in one breath. To run code we type a command in the terminal, and the Python interpreter reads our file and performs its lines in order. A tool called UV manages Python for us, and Versus Code is the editor where we write. You do not need any of this today. The setup is deferred on purpose, so that understanding can come first. Next lesson, we meet variables. Well done for finishing this guided tour. Lesson 3, done. Thanks for watching. Next up, what are variables?